Hi, this is Graham here. Now, we've got a bit of a problem when people receive wages, and sometimes people don't receive wages. But a main point about the wage is how much do we give a person to live on? Because the cost of living increases somewhat, and the wage of your job does not always reflect this, and this is where people get into difficulty. But I wanted to use something from the Bible as a stepping stone, an aid, that people may see things differently. Hopefully they'll understand what I'm trying to get at. Okay? Now I want to quote a situation in the New Testament of the Bible. Okay? And Jesus has been invited into a Pharisee's house. Now, I read that the tradition of Jews in a certain time was to leave the house door open so people could wander in off the streets. So this is why a person in this story stumbles on into the scene, okay? This woman, okay? Right. Then one of the Pharisees invited Jesus to eat with him, and he entered the Pharisee's house and reclined at the table. When a sinful woman from that town learned that Jesus was dining there, she brought an alabaster jar of perfume. As she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears and wipe them with her hair. Then she kissed his feet and anointed them with the perfume. When the Pharisee who had invited Jesus saw this, he said to himself, "If this man were a prophet, he would know who this is and what kind of woman is touching him, for she is a sinner." But Jesus answered him, "Simon, I have something to tell you." "Tell me, teacher," he said. Two men were debtors to a certain money lender. One owed him 500 denarii and the other 50. When they were unable to repay him, he forgave both of them. Which one then will love him more? "I suppose the one who was forgiven more," Simon replied. "You have judged correctly," Jesus said. And turning toward the woman, he said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? When I entered your house, you did not give me water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair. You did not greet me with a kiss, but she had not stopped kissing my feet since I arrived. You did not anoint my head with oil, but she has anointed my feet with perfume. Therefore I tell you, because her many sins have been forgiven, she has loved much. But he who has been forgiven little loves little." Then Jesus said to her, "Your sins are forgiven." But those at the table began to say to themselves, "Who is this who even forgives sins?" And Jesus told the woman, "Your faith has saved you. Go in peace." Now, as I said, this is about wages, okay? Now, the problem arises when a person has a degree or their job is very involved. Maybe their wage is somewhat high, okay? And people with that high wage can, despite the problems with the cost of living, this high wage enables them to live without fear of problems. Now, the problem arises when jobs exist, that when a wage is decided because of the nature of involvement within that job, say like a cleaner, okay, the wage has it sticks at a certain value. People do not see the value of or merit in giving, say for example, a policeman, right, or an office worker. If the office worker, right, received the same wage as the cleaner, or vice versa, the cleaner gets the same wage as the office worker, okay, the office worker would complain saying, this work, this wage, this person has not earned this wage, okay. But I want to remind of another situation in the Bible. You see, the Judeo-Christian thought goes, God has forgiven those people who do not deserve to be forgiven. And a good example of this is seen in the example of the compassionate father, the parable of the compassionate father. But traditionally, the title has always been referred to as the prodigal son. But here is where words have power. The title of the traditional name for that parable was taking it from the perspective of the son who left the house, whereas the title, the compassionate father, takes the position of the father, which gives a totally different, it sends out a different message. It's like if you say the prodigal son, you're more likely to say, oh, the son's the son's causing trouble, right? But it's just, it has a negative connotation. But so has the word sinner. Now, the Greek meaning of the word sinner just means missing the mark, okay? And in context it means humans were to behave in a certain way, but they missed the mark, okay? Now, if God said we don't deserve forgiveness and he's given it to us, right, then this is an important lesson about wages. Now, any type of job, right, that is limited to, in how much money people are willing to give an employee, say a cleaner, right? Well, it's not going to go above that because, well, it just isn't possible. But here we should look at God and say, well, our forgiveness isn't deserved, but God has given it. So, society has to find a way to ensure whenever society has an economic problem, just like how inflation goes up and down, the wages should go up and down. Now, this may seem a bit problematical, but cancelling debt out is what needs to be reckoned to be the solution to the problem. And you have to inject money. You have to say, this cleaner traditionally has a wage that has this amount, but soon as the economic problem goes, what the office worker gets, right? This is just an example, okay? The cleaner will get. And it comes down to what I quoted in this, when Jesus was invited to a Pharisee's house. The Pharisee hadn't been forgiven. That's why he couldn't understand how Jesus was looking on with this woman. Now, employees who have a bigger job role, and by that they would have a bigger wage, needs to learn from that Pharisee and how he did things wrongly. So the question is, how do you get round this problem of an unequal equilibrium when it comes to wages? Because currently, the way people are revering jobs and their positions is the reason why the cost of living is a problem. There is too much pride on earning the highest wage, and that is what's causing the whole world to suffer. You see, Christians write and Christians work, so Christians should be able to understand this. There's two Christians write. Both Christians have forgiven, right? But one Christian has done less wrong than the other, okay? And the one who has been forgiven more loves more, right? Now, what Jesus is forcing believers and unbelievers to notice is you have to learn to show humility in what you are observing in people and how you treat them. Now, a Christian therefore has to show humility when, in the ideal world, a cleaner can have the same wage as that office worker, despite having a more involved kind of work environment, right? And I've been a cleaner. I know what a cleaner does. I'm not saying it's, the mental strain of a job requires people to think, well, I deserve more money for this, okay? But here's the vanity of people. You see, do we deserve to be forgiven? I hope I explained myself well. And if I didn't, you can tell me in the comments below. And if you didn't get to the end of the video, well, I don't blame you. Bye for now.